What does a 40-year artistic journey look like? From graffiti art in the 1980s all the way to 2025 with abstract spiritual portraiture? Well, stay tuned and find out. My name is J.D. Estrada, also known as John Zender. And like many artists throughout history, my style has shifted and evolved over the years. Over the past 40 years, I've explored a wide range of artistic movements, each shaping who I am as an artist and as a creative being. In this video, I'll take you through that journey, beginning in 1985 with the influence of New York's graffiti art scene, and the neo-expressionism of the 80s, all the way to my current work in spiritual abstract portraiture, where I fuse together the many influences that have defined my art. We begin with 1987, where I began my career in 1985 as a graffiti artist in Los Angeles. I was influenced by Futura 2000, Dondi, Zephyr, and many other graffiti writers from New York. In 1987, I was at Otis Art Institute of Parsons School of Design, and I had a one-man show at Otis that used to be in front of MacArthur Park called Neo-Expressionism, a dedication to neo-expressionism of art. And these two pieces are some of the last two pieces left over from that exhibition. From 1988 to actually 1991, there's a big gap in my artist career. I ended up being in a situation where I did some prison time in California, and even though while I was incarcerated, I did do quite a few sketches, drawings, and many of the artworks that I actually have a book being published about my prison experience. It's an art book, so that should be coming out pretty soon. In 1994, I began to do a whole series of murals in Los Angeles, and that began to influence my work. I began to continue to do some exhibitions with graffiti art and mixed media on canvas and on paper. As you can see here, I'm still using words, text, font, and you can see now hints of spirituality. This piece itself is called Moses' Law, and it has the 10 Commandments written in the background, while the figure and graffiti design styles coming out of the person's head. By 1995, I was in full swing doing many murals in East Los Angeles. One of the reoccurring themes was Chicano history and Cesar Chavez. I did a lot of murals with Emiliano Zapata and the Plan de Ayala in East Los Angeles, which he presents that the land belongs to the people. This is a piece from a show in Long Beach called Viva Zapata, which the title of this piece is called Vivir o Morir, spray paint on paper, 1995. By 1996, my easel work and my murals began to split apart. I began to explore more spirituality in my work and began to explore more abstraction in my work. The fusion between abstraction and figurative was still unclear in this work. These are some of the works from several shows I had in 1996. This piece itself is mixed media on paper. The concept is called Hidden from the Wise, Revealed to the Simple. By 1998, I was fully immersed in abstract. I was reading books by Kandinsky, Gorky, Roberto Mata, and Wilfredo Lam. The idea of merging and fusing culture, abstraction, and spirituality all in one was beginning to fascinate me as a painter. By 1999, I had an exhibition in Long Beach called Art from the Other Side, the spiritual side. This exhibition was with Beto de la Rocha, one of the founding members of Los Four, and Julio Sanchez. The exhibition was a great success, and my career as an abstract painter began to move. By 2001, I was doing a large body of abstract paintings. These abstracts had an absolute deep spiritual, biblical context to it. I was even trying to do the entire Bible in a 66-foot painting called From Revelations to Genesis. I did the Revelation section, and it was exhibited at Bluebird Gallery in Whittier. In 2002, I had a one-man show called A Decade of Paint, where I highlighted the transition from graffiti to Chicano art to the fusion of abstraction and cultural art. In this particular piece, this is an oil on canvas piece dated to 2002 that brings back the figure back into the abstraction, making it a centerpiece, with the abstraction now becoming the aura, or the projection of what's going on in the mind of the figure. Along with it, I began to include tattoos as a storytelling to showcase what goes on in the inside, and how some Chicanos or tattoo artists reflect their stories on the outside. By 2006, I was part of several different organizations. I was exhibiting with an organization called Seeds, which included several exhibitions, including an exhibition at the Crystal Cathedral with Kent Twitchell and many other artists. At the same time, I was being represented by the gallery in Whittier that also had several exhibitions, including one show with a group show, including the artists such as Retina. In this particular piece dated 2006, the concept is called the Born Again Experience. Again, being very influenced by spirituality and trying to find a way to create the same concept that Mata tried to create with morphology. The concept of something changing from one thing to another. The same way a seed can become a tree, and the process that happens in between. I too try to use biology and science to try to give you a metaphysical experience of the born again experience. A person surrendering their life to Jesus Christ, therefore their life being transformed, becoming a new person. And how is that manifested on a two-dimensional space? By 2008, I began to be influenced by the Peruvian artist Fernando de Cislo, fusing culture and abstraction. Many of my works included Mayan, Aztec, and Native American headdress. I also used indigenous patterns in the abstract background to symbolize spiritual gateways or spiritual auras that many of these indigenous cultures believed in. By 2009, I began to attempt at fusing many of my prior influences, including culture, graffiti, and abstraction, and all the symbolisms that I have used in the past, and trying to find out if I could give it a three-dimensional or a more solidification of this process. Here is an Aztec headdress with an eagle that is slowly fusing into the abstraction of its surroundings, along with the claws of daggers and claws, and also the abstraction at the far bottom, which I call wisdom and insight, which is like a seed that is growing almost like a gland inside the brain. In 2010, I had another one-man show at Homeboys Gallery in downtown Los Angeles. The title of this show was called Urban Chicano. The concept of Urban Chicano is something that I adopted as part of my work at the time, because again, I was still exploring Chicanismo and abstraction, along with morphology and some of the other cultural references that were influenced by Wilfredo Lam, Mata, de Cislo, and many others. In this particular piece, it's called Sangre por Sangre, which is a common word used in the Mexican mafia that means blood in, blood out. But in my interpretation, Sangre por Sangre means blood for blood, which means the blood of Christ representing or dying on the cross for the blood of the sacrifice of the changed man. So in this piece, the homeboy has gone through an internal transformation of a spiritual awakening, where his heart, which is symbolized by a red circle, like a target or a boomerang, ready to spiral out of control, and now his mindset has been changed forever. In 2013, I was part of several shows. Now I was able to move from Chicano shows to graffiti urban shows. This in particular was part of several exhibitions I had, including some at Chimaya Gallery in East Los Angeles. This is also a piece that I've done several versions of them. This might be maybe the third version of the same concept. One of this version is actually in the collection of from Abstract Video, Tommy in New York. And this concept is the you that say you can see, your sin remains. The concept is saying that there's a lot of people who try to influence you or tell you that their perspective or their philosophy or theory is the correct one, not knowing that they themselves may be blinded to some of the realities of what's going on in our community or in our social government. In 2017, I had the opportunity to move out of Los Angeles and move to the Antelope Valley. Here, there's quite a lot of space, a lot of empty lots, pretty much a lot of desert out here. So it allowed me to sort of not focus on exhibitions or on art shows, but to really think about my work and where I was trying to take it from this point. I ended up doing about 58 by 10 oil paintings in regards to the same concept of spirituality and auras and science and metaphysics and consciousness. But this time I sort of tried to slowly move away from a particular culture or ethnic group, but I wanted to now sort of widen my scope and begin to think about humanity itself and what makes us human and what makes us not human. And by that I mean like the technological influences of technology and social media, as well as the metaverse. So here I'm beginning to sort of begin to explore the mechanics of who are we becoming as a people of the United States or the world itself. By 2018, I now have done a large amount of work in the same style and the same concept of exploring how and in which direction can we take. I did a series where the portraits were a bit too realistic, and when your portraits are too realistic, you sort of, as a viewer, you tend to wonder, who is it, a person, a particular person, or is it a self-portrait? So here I sort of went back to the idea of all of us wearing masks, and we project a false persona, or we can project an identity of who we think we are on the external, but obviously the external is not as important as who you are in the inside. So here in this particular piece we have the same little round seeds that I call seeds of knowledge being expanded in what I call the crossroads of reality. We have also now including the vocal vibration of what we say, as well as our visual interpretation of what we see is not real, but a simple manifestation of our brain's interpretation of what we think we see based on our own understanding of what we see. The following year in 2019, I began to also explore with the concepts of death, dying, growing old, and moving into another realm of spirituality. Here we see a skull that is trying to speak, but what is it saying? The words do not pass from the other world into this world. The simplification of the color palette is also something that I began to explore. in attempts to try and see how can I not make it look too bright. So I didn't want the work to be confused with street art or pop art. Again, everything is part of a long-term process at this point to begin to find out how can I solve the problem of trying to show that a person has consciousness, that a person has an effect, a vibrational effect on the world through thought, through action, through intent, through even love or hate. By 2020, we all can remember the pandemic that many of us were not prepared for. So therefore, the concept that I was exploring of life, death, sickness, and disease, and who we are as people, and how we collectively work together, either to destroy our world or make it better, seemed more evident now that 2020 had arrived and all its negative aspects of that year. So in 2020, I did a large amount of works similar to the ones that I had continually explored. The possibility, as you can see in this piece, the figures now being distorted, and the figures are now going to become explored in many different directions. From this point in 2020, I had done over 400 sketches and concepts on paper, and all of them reflecting different possibilities, different ideas, different color schemes, different subject matter as far as how the movement and how the dimensions and how the color and directions all move together in a piece of work. So this is many works that I did at this time because of the lockdown. My journey has been one of evolution. Each style, each movement, each year adding another layer to who I am as an artist. From the walls of the city to the canvas of the spirit, my work continues to grow and transform. Thank you for taking the time to walk with me through these chapters of my life and my art. If this story and work resonate with you, I invite you to stay connected, share your thoughts, and join me as I continue exploring the limitless possibilities of art. Thank you.